Good evening. Chief Executive Yeung is quietly shelving his Hong Kong Land for Hong Kong People scheme. It was one of his key election promises, but Yeung claims the property market is no longer overheated and demand from overseas buyers has dropped. One of Chief Executive Yeung's boldest policy moves as part of delivering his election promises was his Hong Kong Land for Hong Kong People scheme in 2012. It was a populist response to a public outcry over soaring home prices, a problem compounded by cash-rich mainland buyers snapping up flats and making the market even more unaffordable. The contracts for 2 prime sites in Kai Tak, earmarked under the scheme, were ironically grabbed by mainland developer China Overseas for $4.5 billion. The developer is allowed to sell the 1,100 flats only to local permanent residents for a period of 30 years and will have to charge more than $10,000 per square foot to make a profit. That already makes it out of reach for most Hong Kongers, and there's not enough to go around for even those who could afford them. Now it looks like the chief executive is quietly ditching the whole scheme. He didn't quite put it in those words when responding to a report in the Chinese-language Xingtao daily newspaper today that he's shelving the scheme quietly to avoid criticism that the key policy initiative has failed. The scheme was launched on a pilot basis and is deployed only when the market overheats, he insisted. Yeung went on to declare that since he imposed a stamp duty on non-residents buying property and other measures to cool the market, overseas demand has dropped to very, very low levels. But he refused to say directly that he was axing the Hong Kong Land for Hong Kong People scheme, claiming instead that it has been accepted by the market and proved feasible. We can launch it again in the future in a short period of time if necessary, Yeung stressed, as he promised again that local residents' housing needs will remain his priority. That's not enough for ATPL lawmaker Frederick Fung, who accused Yeung of lacking consistency in his policies. He warned that the government is violating free market principles by applying rules whenever it chooses. In another blow for Yeung, a new Hong Kong University poll shows his popularity has plunged again, and 56% of the public does not want him to continue as chief executive. 10 more pan-democratic lawmakers have agreed to go to Shanghai later this month on an ice-breaking visit to discuss universal suffrage with mainland officials. But the Democratic Party is still undecided. ATV's Emery Sim reports.
Only 44 of the 70 lawmakers had signed up when the deadline to register for LegCo's trip to Shanghai on the 12th and 13th of this month expired yesterday. From the Pan-Democrats, only radical lawmaker Leung Kwok-hung was on the list, while Frederick Fung of the ADPL announced he was accepting the chief executive's invitation. This morning, 10 more Pan-Democrats announced that they will go too. 4 are from the Civic Party, 2 are Labour Party lawmakers, and 4 are independents. The opposition legislators delayed their decision because they wanted a concrete answer from Beijing on their request to meet mainland officials separately from their pro-establishment colleagues. With 11 days to go, Beijing hasn't answered them yet. But LegCo President Zhang Yoxing, who will head the delegation to Shanghai, has assured opposition lawmakers that no central government official has shut the door on their request.
We have decided to go because we heard what had fallen from the president on Sunday. The Honorable Jasper Zhang said that there was probably no problem with the request by the Pan-Democrats, and we therefore would ask the president, who is of course the leader of the delegation, to see to it that the arrangement, which is most reasonable by the Pan-Democrats, would actually be realized. And he not only owe it to us, but he also owe it to the people of Hong Kong to make that happen.
The Labour Party's Sid Ho also cited Zhang's assurance as a deciding factor.
It's nothing but reasonable, but the fact that they cannot give any concrete promise on whether they will see the Pan-Democrat separately is a worry to us. It's really a concern. But with the Honourable Mr. Jasper Zhang's promise and his assessment of the latest situation, that we decided to take his word that since the chairman of the Legislative Council put his honor at stake, and what we have to lose but the timing of a 2 days and a 1 night trip.
Democratic Party chairwoman Emily Lau, who has vowed to boycott the trip unless she gets back her confiscated home return permit first, stressed that her party is still mulling over the invite.
But it has always been the policy of the Democratic Party to engage in discussion and negotiation. So, as I said, we, members of the Central Committee, will take note of the views of other pan-democrats expressed today, and we will make our decision to go or not, and if so, how many will go and who will go on Thursday night.
The pan-democrats who are going are taking a step in the right direction, the minister in charge of Constitutional and Mainland Affairs said.
I won't say it's a breakthrough per se, but certainly it is a very good basis for the ongoing consultation and our ongoing process to bridge the differences among various political parties. And I'm glad that more and more legislative councillors have seized the opportunity and to express their willingness to join the delegation to Shanghai next week.
As part of the trip, the lawmakers will spend half a day in Shanghai meeting Wang Guangya, Beijing's point man on Hong Kong affairs, and Basic Law Committee Chairman Li Fei.
Hong Kong University's new Vice-Chancellor has promised to support its students if they plan to join the planned Occupy Central protest as long as they act legally. On his first day in office at the city's oldest university, Peter Matheson was also out to prove he's no outsider. ATV's Brendan Clannett reports.
The first expatriate Vice-Chancellor of Hong Kong University in 11 years showed that he's been learning his Chinese when he reported for work today. British academic Peter Matheson, who was panned by critics for lacking expertise in Hong Kong and Chinese affairs, repeated his words in English.
I'm very delighted. I will work hard with the students, the staff, the alumni and the friends and other stakeholders of the university to ensure that we take the university to new heights.
The former Dean of Medicine and Dentistry threw his weight behind free speech and assembly ahead of Occupy Central's plan to block the streets of the city's business hub in a push for universal suffrage.
I support the students' right to peaceful protest. I support free speech and will stand up for those core values. I also respect the law, and the university will help any students that happen to participate or to get into any trouble in Occupy Central, but always within the boundaries of respect for the law.
The new Vice-Chancellor also expressed support for the university's veteran pollster Robert Cheung, who's been accused of bias in his public opinion polls that regularly highlight the chief executive's plunging popularity.
My understanding of the opinion poll issue is that the university supports the methodology and believes the methodology is sound and respects the academic freedom of the staff member to promote these results.
Matheson said while he understood his critics' reservations about his appointment, he'll go all out to prove them wrong.
I think there are grounds on which I was criticised, as you say, in regards to my previous experience. I also think I have some positive previous experiences to offer, and I will be even more determined to convince the people that doubt my suitability that I'm worthy of the position and that I can support the needs of Hong Kong youth.
Matheson said he's been studying important local issues and tuning in to the city's media.
Forced shopping tours to Hong Kong still appear to be rampant, although the mainland has banned such packages to protect visitors. State broadcaster CCTV caught a tour guide on camera scolding shoppers for not buying enough at the stores they were taken to. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
An undercover reporter from state broadcaster CCTV joined other mainlanders for a 3-day tour of Hong Kong and Macau to expose a practice that has long been banned. The holidaymakers paid only 200 yuan, which they were told was for the tour guide services. They were given a travel voucher worth nearly 4,000 yuan, covering meals and accommodation. But when they arrived at their destination, they were taken on a forced shopping tour. In one incident, their guide was caught on camera scolding them for not shopping enough and urging them to spend at least 3,000 yuan. The mainlanders were also taken to a Macau casino and made to pay an entrance fee, even though there's no such charge. In October last year, Beijing introduced laws aimed at stopping tour agencies from forcing their clients to shop. This was to stop the rampant practice of travel firms luring mainlanders with cheap package tours and profiting from commissions given by stores where the tourists were taken to. But the new law apparently does not cover travel vouchers, enabling travel agents to circumvent the rules. Members of a tour group in Hung Hom said they were made to sign papers, acknowledging that shopping would be on the itinerary. The chairman of the Inbound Tour Operators Association, Ricky Tse, said tourists get what they pay for and called on travelers to study the conditions first. Meanwhile, the Population Policy Concern Group fears that shops catering more to mainland tourists are becoming a problem in areas like Bangkok, where there are 97 pharmacies compared with 36 convenience stores.
You can feel the Bangkok has become the mainland tourist supermarket, especially there are many jewelry shops, many pharmacies, and also there are many luggages, traveling around the empty hours.
The group is calling on the government to scrap multiple entry permits for Shenzhen residents. Arthur Kiola, ATV News.
There were scuffles outside Taiwan's parliament today as hundreds of supporters of a controversial trade pact with the mainland tried to storm the building. The protesters want to confront students occupying the legislature. Here's Anne-Marie Sim.
Tensions were high in Taipei today, as it was the turn of hundreds of supporters of the government's free trade deal with the mainland to take to the streets. Scuffles broke out as they tried to force their way through a police cordon and into the Parliament building, which has been occupied by student protesters opposing the deal since the 18th of March. They claimed they wanted to hold a dialogue with those who are camped inside the main chamber. Hundreds of flag-waving and slogan-chanting demonstrators claiming to be members of trade unions demanded that the students hand back the compound to lawmakers. While the demonstrators' slogans included peace and reason, the police presence was tripled to around 740 officers to ensure that rival crowds did not come into direct contact. Officers were also worried that the demonstrators marching on Parliament could contain some criminal elements, as their rally was led by Chang An-lo, a former gang leader better known as the White Wolf, who now heads a pro-unification political party. Adding to the chaos was the opposition Democratic Progressive Party, which had also asked its supporters to rally outside the Parliament building to counter the unionists. In a statement, the ruling Kuomintang Party called on all sides to keep their protests peaceful. However, student protest leader Lin Fei-fan today vowed that they would stand their ground and not let anyone inside the chamber. They've been living inside the Parliament building to protest against the trade pact that would allow Taiwan and the mainland to invest more freely in each other's services sectors. The students fear it will threaten democracy on the island and lead to job losses.
Businesses in Japan are bracing for a drop in revenue as the sales tax rose for the first time in 17 years. The government hopes the extra revenue will help reduce its massive public debt, but the move could backfire if consumers tighten their purse strings. New price tags have been put on items in stores across Japan. That's because the sales tax goes up today, from 5% to 8%. It's the first time since 1997 that the levy has been increased, and if there's no public outcry later, the tax might be raised again to 10% next year. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe hopes the higher tax will raise about $50 billion, although that's just a drop in the bucket compared with the massive public debt of $9.7 trillion. But it's a start, according to the Prime Minister. The tax will help meet the demands of our ever-growing pension and medical costs to care for the elderly, Abe said. However, there's concern the move could backfire if Japanese consumers cut back on purchases at a time when exports remain sluggish. In 1997, when Tokyo last raised the sales tax, the country slipped into recession, although economists argued that other factors were also at play. There was the Asian financial crisis, and Japanese banks were facing difficulties. This time round, Japanese banks are healthy, but national business sentiment is weaker than it was 17 years ago. According to a survey by the Bank of Japan, firms in the manufacturing and services sectors expect conditions to worsen in the second quarter. The mood among Japanese shoppers is mixed. We'll get used to the high tax soon, said this woman. But many others are concerned and vowed to keep a tighter watch on their budget. As the search continues for the Malaysian plane that disappeared more than 3 weeks ago, the Malaysian government has come under fire again. This time is over the last words from the cockpit. Britain Planet reports.
Malaysia's handling of the mysterious disappearance of flight MH370 took another beating after the authorities admitted that they got the last words from the plane wrong. They now say moments before the Boeing 777 vanished, one of the pilots told air traffic control, "Good night, Malaysian 370, not, all right, good night," which was what Kuala Lumpur first said were the final words from the plane before it went off the radar near Vietnam during a flight to Beijing last month.
The admission today by the Malaysian government that the last words were not correct as reported is extraordinary. That's taken 3 weeks to correct this, and unfortunately this just gives the families of the victims more evidence that things are being hidden from them, if you like.
Malaysia's Civil Aviation Chief Azharuddin Abdul Rahman triggered more speculation when he ordered the media to leave the room during an aviation conference in Kuala Lumpur.
I don't know there's a media here, I'm sorry. Can I ask the media to stay out, please?
Azharuddin insisted his speech contained no new information, but his reaction to the media presence added to the criticism Malaysia is already facing. Among the fiercest critics are the relatives of the 154 Chinese nationals on board the ill-fated plane. Meanwhile, an international search is continuing in the remote and treacherous waters off Western Australia, where the Malaysian airliner with 239 people on board is believed to have crashed after running out of fuel. A Chinese EU Shin IL-76 and a US Navy P-8 Poseidon plane have joined 8 other aircraft and 9 ships from a number of other nations in combing the zone in the southern Indian Ocean, about 2,000 kilometres west of Perth. But authorities warn the search for debris could take weeks.
It's a vast search area, and I think that's what is important to emphasise to you this morning. You know, essentially we do not have any precision in where the aircraft entered the water.
While hundreds of objects have been spotted from the air, nothing from the missing plane has yet been fished out of the water. Search teams also have 5 days before the batteries in the black boxes run out, dashing hopes of ever discovering what actually happened on flight MH370.
Finance news. Hong Kong stocks climbed 1.3% to end at their highest level in more than 3 weeks. The Hang Seng Index rose 297 points to finish at 22,448 on turnover of $69 billion. Traders welcomed data showing mainland manufacturing had picked up in March from an 8-month low. Let's take a look at markets overseas, starting in the US. The Dow Jones is up 50 points. Looking at European trade, the London FTSE has gained 48 points, the Frankfurt DAX is up 36 points, and in Paris the CAC has climbed 31 points. US dollar cross rates now is 1.38 to the euro, 1.66 to the pound sterling, and it's 103 Japanese yen against the US dollar. Time to check your Mark 6 tickets, tonight's winning numbers: 22, 33, 36, 43, 48, 49, and the extra number is 25. And finally, the weather forecast for the next few days. Cloudy with a few showers and 1 or 2 thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 19 to 22 degrees. There should be a break from the rain over the weekend. Here's a look at the weather around the world. that's all the news for now. Thanks for watching ATV. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good night.
Coming up, racing to win. Explore different magnificent places. This world is far more than you can imagine. We open a window to let you see how extraordinary they are. A window on. Friday night at 8. Icebergs, the treacherous floating giants on oceans. Looking for ways to escape from the enormous obstacles, scientists start out on a remarkable journey of discovery. Science on the Seven Seas, Saturday night at 9:30. Love it? Say it! Discover the latest and the hottest trends in Japan. Feel the pulse of the vibrant and fabulous culture. JP Time TV, every Sunday night at 6:25. Love makes people stupid. Love also bestows courage and faith. For love, they devoted their life to carving steps in a mountain, building roads through hills. Love can indeed accomplish masterpieces. Documentary World, designed by love. Sunday night at 9. They can drive you nuts. From the most powerful roaring on Earth to the sexiest bodies you'll ever see. They're surely every man's dream. Drive it every Monday night at 8.
Open your eyes to see the beauty of the world.
Open your arms to others for love and peace. Put your hands up, put your hands up. Help us to save lives. Open your hearts to those who got sick or weak. Open your minds to all the ways to help. Put your hands up, put your...
Every blood donation is a gift of life. Please come and donate blood.
Soccer Fever, Amazing April, live on World Channel. Watch the live show on your phone and ATV website.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to Racing to Win. We're back at Happy Valley tomorrow night. It's been a pretty wild weekend of weather, and well, there could be some more rain to come. That's what the forecast is for, so we're going to have to be a little bit guarded with our tips tonight.
Yes, and we haven't been to the Valley as well for a couple of weeks, Darren, so we're back onto the A course. I think it's going to be a tricky program with the weather and the fact that we haven't been there for 2 weeks, so interesting. Hong Kong Exchanges Challenge Cup is the feature. There's a big jackpot in the TT as well of 11 million.
Yep, bit more to get enticed with, and I thought Casper Founds was very well represented at the card there tomorrow, Darren. Starting to pick up a bit of momentum in the stable now, and I thought he had quite a few chances, although who knows, if it rains heavily on the night, makes it a bit more difficult. But on paper, he looked to have a good card. Well,
just before we get into the preview of Happy Valley and the big jackpot and the triple trio, we'll review the action from the weekend, primarily Dubai. Missed the action from Dubai on Saturday. Here we go. It was glory for Hong Kong right off the bat in the Alquoz sprint, with Joe Moreira taking Amber Sky straight to the front. In contrast, Christophe Soumillon on the favourite was all the way back last on Shay Shay.
Yeah, big run from Shay Shay. We know he's a good horse there in the past. I thought Amber Sky raced terrifically well here. I know many people thought at this stage of the race he was vulnerable to get run over. He does change stride here in a moment, and then as soon as he changes stride, he's able to hold his position and fend off the challengers. So it was a very good effort from Amber Sky. Great for Hong Kong. And of course, we mentioned you know, earlier on in the season when we saw Amber Sky returning, that he'd actually put on a fair bit of body weight. And that body weight obviously has built his strength, because there were issues about him finding the line when he got up into these type of quality races. But he's shown us, Clint, that he's getting stronger with age.
Terrific performance. Yeah, I mean, he travelled well. I thought from the vision that we got from Dubai, he looked fabulous. I thought Ricky Yeung turned him out looking a treat. Didn't turn a hair, and thankfully he got the job done.
We've got one for Royal Ascot if they want to go.
I think there will be. I mean, they'd be mad not to. I mean, when you've got a straight course horse, I mean, there is quite a good now global program for you, isn't there? Cape of Good Hope started that all off, and I think this guy will probably emulate that.
Yeah, let's hope it works out that way. Stirling City was able to claim the Alquoz Sprint. This was a completely Hong Kong-dominated race, and a funny one as well. Olivier Deleuze gave Rich Tapestry a beautiful ride from the bad gate, travelled well. Don't think Stirling City ever travelled at any stage until he came off heels and got clear running without the kickback.
And watch Joe Moreira here when they corner in right about now. There he gives him a decent whack on the behind Stirling City, and he responded. He got into the clear, and he changes the whip into the left hand in a moment as well, and that's when he starts to pick up the final stages. I agree, Darren, he never travelled a yard, probably didn't really feel comfortable on the surface, but he's just a good quality animal, a real trier, and he cut down a very, very game Rich Tapestry, who's had a good carnival in Dubai. Let's not forget he won earlier as well. So terrific, and Hong Kong really dominating the sprint.
Yeah, they can hold their head up proudly, both of them, and you've got to feel for Rich Tapestry's connections a little bit. I mean, I think the gates cost them. If you turn the gates around,